Welcome back to your favorite St. Louis sports podcast, The Lunatics. I'm your host, Tyler, along with my friend and co-host, John. While after a long absence, although not for lack of trying, we're back at it again. As it was once said, back at it again with the white Nikes. But sadly, I don't actually own white Nikes, nor have I ever owned white Nikes, at least not since probably like 5th grade. No?
No.
I'll jump it off. To start off with what I'm drinking this evening, I went ahead and went with my Maker's Mark Golden Hour Select because I'm still working on that, and I may or may not have gone back and bought 2 more bottles because I've really enjoyed this one. And it was a limited thing, so I tried to get them before they were gone.
I get that. You didn't ask how I was doing tonight, so that was kind of rude.
Well, you started to stand up after the white Nikes thing, so I jumped into the drinks.
I had to fix my light.
I was just trying to keep things rolling. Stop yelling at me. So
I'm just saying,
John, how are you doing this
pretty,
evening?
You have to have the lighting correct. Doing great. I'm glad to be back doing what we do worst. So let's go. Let's do it. Let's see what's going on.
Hey, no, it's been good. What are you drinking tonight? It looked like water, maybe?
Sparkling water. I had a hefty little glass of bourbon to pregame recording. So I'm gonna stick with that and see if I can ride that out the rest of the night. Because I do want to exercise in the morning, and I'd rather not be puking during it. So
yeah, I'm not sure if I'm. I've fallen off the exercising wagon recently, although the diet has stayed fairly strong, so have not gained any weight. So that's nice. Looking at your hat makes me think we finished up the blue season. And for those of you who aren't aware, by those of you, I mean pretty much everyone except for like 3 or 4 people that have asked about episodes. We did try to record an episode recently, and our audio files got all sorts of jacked up. And so that didn't work.
3rd time's the charm on this episode. I have faith that it will work tonight.
God, I am crossing my fingers that it's going to work tonight. So, because if it doesn't work this time, we're just going to have to start scheduling time to hang out in person and doing it that way. Probably. Which really isn't the worst thing in the world. But with that being said, the Blues did finish the season, and sadly, they did not hit the 93 points that they needed to hit for me to win the bet. They came up 1 point short, which again, going back to the over-under, we nailed the over-under on that.
Nailed it.
So, which means I now sadly owe John beer. And being the good sport that I am, I have some options for you that I've been waiting to preview on this episode. So, option number 1, we have our go-to, the Brewligans.
Classic. Can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong with that. Now we get into the more fun stuff. For those of you who don't know, John's a big stout fan.
Big stouts.
So, next option here is Boulevard. Whiskey Barrel Stout.
Okay.
Yeah. The last one's a little different. Found it in the middle of the store of a local area. I have the Big Muddy Brewing Company from Murfreesboro, and I have the S'mores Stout.
I've never had a s'mores stout, although not Urban Chestnut, Four Hands did have a chocolate marshmallow one this past winter, which was delicious. Which I probably need to bring over because I think I said you could try not the almond one, but the other ones. And I'm very close to having drank all of them again. So I think I want to go with. Oh, this is very hard. This is very hard because we're out of stout season.
Yeah.
Can I think about this while we record?
Yeah, you have
come
to
back to this.
You have to let me know by the end of the episode, or I'm going to choose for you.
Yeah. Before we end this, I will say this is what I'm getting. Yeah.
I got good options. I didn't just go out and be like, hey, you can choose between Natty Light or Bush Light. In which case, we all know you'd take the Bush Latte.
Well, yeah, this fucking America, isn't it? Like, we drink Bush Lights here. Let's go.
I tend to just drink Bush. I usually have 6 to 12 Bush in my fridge for when family and friends come over, because inevitably they're like, I'm like, oh, do you want a drink? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, I got bourbon and tequila. And they're like, do you have any beer? And I'm like, there's Bush in the fridge.
Yeah, I have a similar situation with my father-in-law because he exclusively drinks tequila, except occasionally vodka, both on ice, pretty much nonstop, which are basically the two things that I don't really drink because I'm a big beer and bourbon guy, and he won't drink either of those. So like, I never have to share. It's kind of nice. I can like ride like a single bottle of tequila for him for a long time at my house. So that works. But anyway, yeah, Blues did not make the playoffs. 92 points. It sucks.
I think they finished right where we thought they'd finish at the end of the year. And yeah, you know, as frustrating of a season as it was, I think there's definitely some positives. There's definitely negatives to take out of it. Room to grow for next year. I think Zach Bolduc coming up, he looked good and towards the end of the season and was encouraging to see him playing well.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have our goalie situation is set. We have one
understatement,
1A and 1B, very much so for our goalie situation. You know, so I think that stuff's good. I think there's still some roster things to figure out. As Army, that's Army's job, not mine, which is nice. I do wonder, kind of, you know, there's talks of, you know, who do you trade? Who do you move on from? What do you do? Because Snuggerud did not sign with the team. Obviously, that leaves us a roster spot that we have to fill of that top 9 forward group. So I don't think you see Kyrou moved. I think if he ends up getting moved, it won't be till at next off season or later. But that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I think you're probably right on that. You know, the playoffs are still going on. There's not going to be any moves for a little bit. So, you know, who knows the exact makeup of this team in 6 months when the season starts again. Let me ask you this, though, just gut reaction right now. Do you think next season they get more points than they got this season?
I want to say yes, because the young guys, you would hope all takes a step forward. But I honestly can't answer that until I have an idea of what our coaching staff looks like.
That's fair.
And that's probably the biggest question to me, which to me leads me to the question for you. Does Drew Bannister stay the coach?
First off, fuck you. That was my question for you. And our now deleted purgatory episodes that don't exist.
Dude, I went on a rant too. So
you really did, and it's kind of sad because it's like we did. It was such great content. I guess we could, you know, clip it and put it on as reels, right? We still have it, but
it's out there. It's on the interwebs somewhere.
Yeah, hidden on the interwebs, only available to us right now. Here's the thing about Bannister. I don't think the team did any better under Bannister than they would have under Berube. And that's neither for nor against Bannister. The team just is what it is. What you hope out of your coaching staff happens is that they elevate the players that are on the team. And I don't think we saw that under Bannister compared to Berube. So we removed the coach and the team still performed the same way that they did, which tells me, hey, it's a roster situation, which I think at least, and I think you did too, advocated a lot about during this season. Like, the roster is just not well constructed to compete with the better teams. And so, yes, we have some really great prospects. If they all, you know, hit and take a step forward, that's going to be great. But I don't think Bannister improves the team. So if I would say they should probably go out, look, see what's out there. If they can find someone better, take it. If not, you're not hurting the team by keeping Bannister.
And there's going to be some decent coaching candidates out there. I mean, it's not any it is surprising that some of them are getting out and getting out from under their contracts. But there's a couple of big name coaches, and I think you take a run at some of them, and if they're the right fit, that's who you bring in. For me, you kind of already touched on it, but Bannister didn't do enough to me to say he's the guy. There's no doubt in my mind, right?
Yeah.
If some of these other guys are not interested in St. Louis, or we interview them and they come to the conclusion like, yeah, they're not a good fit for what we're trying to do, I get it, right? You move on, and you still have Bannister there. Bannister's not somebody who's about to get picked up by another NHL team as a head coach. That's the thing that people need to remember. No other NHL team is like, ooh, he turned around the Blues season. That's the guy we want, right? Like, he didn't do that. He didn't jump out enough. He's just not there. And because of that, you've got him as a solid backup option, but go out and see if you can get one of the big guys, the guys who have been around for a while. Bannister's shown that he, can help develop your talent at the AHL level. So you can send it back down to the AHL level, or, depending on whoever the new coach coming in is, maybe they make a spot for him, if not next year, the year after, something on the bench as kind of an assistant coach at the NHL club level. He's got options. It'll be interesting to see what happens, but my push would be, we need a coach that brings something different to the table. And again, maybe Bannister has a different thought and has something different he would like to do, but didn't have the offseason to implement that. So he kind of had to run with what Berube had already started.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point too, right? That happens a lot with interim coaches, although I would say that I think rarely in professional sports does the interim coach really do well once they get to bring in their own guys, right? I don't think there's very many examples of that. I think there's far more of, okay, they survived or they did better in the remainder of the season than the original coach, and so you extend them, and then they fall again the next year because it's a roster situation, not a coaching situation. So no, I agree 100% with you on that. But speaking of coaches, that kind of makes me wonder about Ollie, right? You and I have talked a lot about how we are not really in favor of Ollie continuing to be the manager for the Cardinals. We're roughly, though we are, I think, exactly 1 month into the season so far. What are your thoughts with that? With the team, with Ollie, all of it?
All right. Well, to start, the first week or so of the season, I felt like Ollie was jumped out the gate with that Dodgers series and kind of mismanaged some of the bullpen issues, which led to us, yeah, I felt like, not splitting the series against the Dodgers and instead only winning one and losing three, which is a tough hole to dig yourself out of. I cannot blame the failures of the teams thus far, though, outside of that series, really on Ollie, on his decision-making. As far as his decision-making in-game, it's been fine. I don't have complaints. I think he's done a good job of getting at bats for people. I think he's done a good job handling our pitching staff, surprisingly. And again, I'm not saying who is I say it's him. He's the manager, right? But we've done good, but we also have some horses there who can eat up innings as far as starters go. Sonny Gray is better than advertised so far this season. I think he's at like 32 strikeouts through 3 starts or something.
Something along those lines, yes. But much more strikeouts than I was expecting this early in the season for him.
Oh yeah, no, he's been great. Lance Lynn's been fine.
Lance, now yeah. I will say, comparing as far as the starting pitching goes, Lance's performance to date has been more surprising to me than Sonny's. But Sonny has been nothing sort of phenomenal. And then apart from the last game, I've been really happy with Matt's so far this year as well. But again, his last start excluded from that.
Yeah, and Michaelis has been hit or miss. And if Michaelis is 50% good, 50% bad, and he ends up being your 4 or 5 starter at the end of the year, I'm okay with that. Gibson has been, he's what I thought he would be. He pitches innings. He's got decent stuff. He knows how to pitch, and he's going to help work through that. the big issue that I've had so far with our team is 100% the offense.
Yeah.
We have
I think
zero
everyone watching
offense.
would say that.
We have zero offense. Our defense has been fine. And not zero, but
our defense has been
good.
back to its usual standards. Our defense has been better than fine. Our defense has been good again, right? Whereas last year they were not good. I will say we haven't really blown anyone out, but if you look at the games we've won, we've scored a lot in those games, and most of the games we've lost, we've barely lost. Most of the games I think have been decided within 2 runs, except for like a few of them here or there. But we did get blown out by Arizona like a couple of times. Got blown out by Miami, who, by the way, as of today, have the worst record in baseball. Way to go, White Sox, for clawing out of that hole. I don't know. The problem that I have with the offense, is that no one's feeling good right now, right? You've got Arenado hitting for average, but no power. You've got Goldie hitting for neither, right? You've got Wynn and Contreras performing. I think Donnie's got a pretty good on base percentage, which is what you expect from him. And then pretty much no one else really contributing that much yet.
Herrera, when he's been in the lineup, has looked good.
He's taken a bit of a step
he's
back,
cooled
but
off
initially,
the last week.
Yeah.
And Mason Wynn has been solid, but again, he's hitting so far down in the lineup. It's hard to make big impacts there. We were talking about you were like, well, we're barely losing games. We're barely losing games because of our run prevention. Our pitching has been better and our defense has been good. Do you want to know how many teams have scored less runs than us this year?
Just the White Sox before today's games, I believe.
It's still just the White Sox.
Is it still just the White Sox?
Yeah, the White Sox have 77 runs. We have 100. Everyone else is above us. Now, there's a couple that are close to us, but the White Sox, for comparison, have started off the year 6-22. They're also having issues at stopping runs because they've also given up like 20 or 30 more runs than us this year already. So they have a lot of issues. But
yeah.
So my question is, we just sent Jordan Walker back to the minors to get his stuff figured out. And he did. He looked lost at the plate so far this year.
Sure.
I don't know what it is because, the reason he made the big league roster last year was because he was hitting. I don't know. Again, I'm not an expert. I've seen some analysts that have gone over his stuff, and there's a lot of him opening up his front hip early and kind of almost looks like he's like bailing out of the strike zone, which, means that he's swinging over the top of stuff as he's pulling his body away from the plate. That's what they say. I'm going to take their word for it, I guess, because I don't know. I'm not I love watching baseball, but I'm not an expert enough to break down the intricacies of a major league swing. But I do know that he's struggling and he looked lost at the plate. And I think sending him down hopefully will help get him right. Victor Scott II was electric when he was on base, but we were only getting him on base once every 2 or 3 games. So that doesn't, do you a lot of good. I just don't.
Yeah. Good.
I just don't know where the offense comes from. Goldie seems to be heating back up the last week or so, which is nice to see. But I'd say heating back up better, more so than he was. Yeah.
For the first time this year. The thing about Goldie is that he's a true pro, right? Like, I'm not that worried about Goldie from a figuring out how to make contact perspective. I am a little concerned about Goldie from he's 36, 37, and who knows where his bat speed's at now, and if he's going to be able to, get his power back. That being said, Arenado has also not been hitting for power yet, even if he is making good contact. As far as Wynn goes, he's hitting really, really well, but, I think we just need to chill for him, and anything we get out of him is great. We don't need to put a ton of expectations on him, especially when everyone else is struggling. Just let him do his thing. Let's not, mess with it if it's working. It's fine. Gorman has been offensively a disappointment this year as well. At least with Goldie, you can say, well, he's 37, right? Like he could easily be just be age. But we really need Gorman to take a step forward, get his power back. I think Walker going down to AAA is going to be a good thing for him.
Mm-hmm.
The pitching is not quite as good, so he can really just focus on seeing the ball. He can work on mechanics and not have to worry about the result as much. He can worry about the process, not the results. Let him work it out, bring him back up. Like, we need Walker to be successful. As far as Victor Scott goes, he wasn't ready. He had a really good spring, but he only made it into the major league roster because of injuries. I think you and I were both like, hey, he's had a good camp. Let's call him in, give him a chance, especially with the injuries. But it's clear he's not there, and that's fine. He got a shot. He can learn from it, grow from it, and we'll see how he develops. But we need some of these guys back. We need not only just batting with Tommy and Carlson being extra outfield depth, but like we need Kittredge back bad. Like I think we lost today because we didn't have not Kittredge, Middleton.
Yeah, I was like, Kittredge has been pitching, man. He's looked good.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, because we've had Romero, Kittredge, and Helsley just like being lights out 1, 2, 3. We need Middleton back because if we'd have had like another like high level reliever, I think we would have gotten a sweep of the Mets this weekend. But it is what it is. Let me ask you this. So we have a losing record right now, which sucks.
2 games under 500.
2 games under 500. But we've actually won more series than we've lost.
Mm-hmm.
If you did not know.
I did. There's 2 series that kill us.
Yeah. You want to go ahead and say them?
Getting swept against the Brewers.
Yes.
And losing 3 of 4 against the Dodgers.
Yeah. And
which I already brought up the Dodgers. Right. The Dodgers one's frustrating because we should have won 2 of those games.
We should have split.
The Milwaukee one. The Milwaukee one's tough. We just couldn't get offense because we held them those next 2 games. I mean, it wasn't like they were blowing us out of the water.
Yeah, well, I mean, we took the first game to extras, lost 2-1. And then the final game we lost 2-0. The middle game they just demolished us, but like
you're gonna have those games. It's not long season.
That shit's gonna happen. That is a series that at the end of the year we could be looking back on and being like could easily be like, that's the series that changes us in the standings at the end of the year.
So when we did our season preview, we were looking at the me and the better version of John. Sure. We looked at the schedule that we had through April, and you and I talked about it a little bit in the episode that followed. Brutal schedule. And we said, hey, if we can be 500 or better at the end of April, like we got a chance to start righting the ship. And May's schedule eases up as far as the competition. My question is we're 2 games under. We've got 2 days left in April. I don't know that we play both days. I need to double check. But if we play one of those days, and we finish a game below 500, do you still call April a success?
Yeah, that's actually what I was saying before April, not on here, but
we play both the next 2 days against the Tigers,
against Detroit. Yeah, but Detroit, this is not the normal Detroit sucks team. They're playing pretty well so far in April, so those are not going to be gimme games. No, I think 1 game under 500 against this schedule we've had is pretty good. And I mean, don't get me wrong, like the Marlins have been a disappointment this season, right? So, there's that. The A's obviously still suck. Detroit is normally, meh. But yeah, I think 1 game under 500 is a good place to be. The bigger issue is how well our opponents have been doing. I mean, the Pirates have come back to earth, but the Reds still 15-13, Cubs 17-11, Milwaukee 17-10. The good news is we have a lot of games left against those clubs, so like we can easily claw that back just by playing them. But there's a lot ahead of us still.
Oh yeah, no, it's a long. And again, it's the one thing with baseball, right? It's a long season. You don't want to make knee-jerk reactions too quickly, but you also have to recognize, right, we're going to be 30 games into the season at the end of the month, and you're roughly just under a 20% of the season done, just right at that. Okay, it's time to start thinking what do we need to change or what do we need to be doing differently. There are some exciting prospects coming up, and I want to save. I think we can do a deeper dive when we have more time. There are some really exciting prospects, or especially pitching side, that are looking really good right now in the Cardinals minor league system, and I'm really intrigued to get your thoughts more in depth. But I also don't want to spring it on you without giving you all the people I want to talk about. So we'll do more of that, but I think it starts to, for me, get more exciting about the idea of these 1-year deals, knowing that, okay, we've got a lot of guys right around the corner.
Yeah, I mean, if they take that next step, right? I think that's been the concern the last few years with our prospects, is that the majority of them over the last 3 or 4 years have come up and we've said, okay, this is, he is going to be the guy. And they haven't necessarily turned into that. I think you could probably go back to like 2018. Almost everyone that's come up in that time frame has not. And I mean, Mason Wynn looks like the real deal so far. He's an early Rookie of the Year candidate, but it's a long season, and there's we don't know if he's going to be able to sustain this.
I tell you what, though, nothing is more exciting to me right now in watching the Cardinals games than when a ball gets hit to shortstop and somebody thinks they're going to beat out Mason Wynn's arm.
Yeah.
And watching him load up. That guy's arm is absolutely electric. In fact, today, I don't know if you saw the play where he threw the guy out coming home. I mean, just absolute
I did not
rocket.
get to watch today's, but I'll have to look that up. Since he's come up, he has 7 or 8 of the fastest throws recorded by StatCast at any level of professional baseball. It's just a list of his name, and then you see someone else, and it's 2 more of him, and then 2 other people. Kid's arm, and not only that, but the mechanics of throwing from shortstop, you can't usually generate a whole lot of power out of that. So he really can launch it.
Yeah, so if for some reason his bat falls apart, put him in the bullpen as a closer.
He was in our when he was in the minors, he was developing as a Shohei for a period of time. But he's also the shortstop. You don't need a lot of offensive production out of your shortstop to be successful, right? That's not why he plays there.
I think he projects as a Gold Glove contender, yearly Gold Glove contender. He's got plus speed on the bases, and I think he'll hit 280 to 290 in his prime. I'm just saying that's where I see him projecting, because I think he's going to develop a little more power. He's probably going to adjust his approach at the plate accordingly, because he's still going to grow into that frame. He's already a strong kid, but he's going to develop more power. And I think you're looking at probably a 280 to 290 hitter with 20 home run power.
I'm just more shocked you're projecting him that good of an average. I'm not willing to,
I said in his prime. I'm not saying for the career. I'm saying in his prime. You say a 3. I'm looking a 3 to 4 year stretch where he's top of his game. I could see him. I think he's a 280.
Is this about to be a 15-year bet that we're about to make?
Yeah, in 15 years, you're going to owe me
a beer with interest. And we're going to look at the best 3-year stretch of his career and see what the average is. Oh, God. We have devolved too much.
Chalk it up right now. Chalk it up right now. Honestly, if Missouri would just legalize it, we could just do it on our phones.
That's true. But instead, we just bet with each other.
Bet beer.
Bet beer.
So not only are we gambling, we're encouraging alcohol consumption. We really are degenerates.
Well, I mean, if you just look over your shoulder, it's basically a walking billboard.
That's just a background. That's not real.
Sure, it isn't. Let me ask you this about if you think this is real. St. Louis City being 9th in the standings, like by points, it's real. But like, do you think that's like really where they should be in the table?
I think the way they've, outside of a couple like quick lapses which have hurt us, I think the way they've played, the way the rest of the West has looked so far, I'm looking at probably like a 6 seed for them at the end of the season.
You think so?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think they could still get 4th. I'm not even convinced that they couldn't get 3rd. They're only 6 points out. And they have a game in hand, so if they win that game, they're only 3 points out of first place. So, like,
I still think we have. I'm just saying, looking at how they've played and how the rest of the West has played, I think that's my thought. It's the end of the season. I think they're going to be somewhere in the 6 seed conversation.
Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, awesome! Because it tells me, I don't know. It's being weird. We're gonna see if it does what it did last time, but I think we're good. I think they could get the 6 seed. I don't think they're going to finish worse than the 6 seed. I'm just saying I think that the ceiling is a little bit higher than that. I've been really excited by their play most of this season, and not just because it's been heart attack inducing. But no, I think they are, like we said in the offseason, they are playing better, but the results don't necessarily reflect that compared to last year, and we expected that.
We've had, God, I don't even know how many games we've played. Are we up to, we're 9 games played.
9 games.
We've got 2 wins, we got 6 draws, and we have 1 loss.
Yep.
The 6 draws to me is actually an encouraging sign, because we could not find a way to do that last season.
No, absolutely not. And I mean, we're the only team left in the Western Conference with only 1 loss, right? There are positive signs. We have come back to draw in almost all of those, right? Now, in 2 of them that I can think of, we did have a lead that we did lose at one point, but those teams were against Sporting Kansas City, who it's a rivalry game, and they can score. They have really good attacking players, and the LA Galaxy, who don't really care how many goals they let in because they just think they're going to outscore you because they're that good in attack as well. So I'm not that worried. I think they're showing grit and in the face of adversity. I really like that. And I think they're tightening up. I think they've been playing better the last 3 or 4 weeks, and I'm really excited for this Houston game this weekend.
Yeah, no, I think the Houston game is going to be really interesting, especially knowing that we've already played them twice this year.
Yes, that's true.
And so this is actually our 3rd look at Houston. We beat them 2-1, lost in St. Louis. We lost 1-0 in Houston. I think it'll be a much better gauge of where both teams are at this point, with both of those early contests being so early in the season, but also being, again, now opponents that kind of know each other. But I feel like St. Louis City has changed a lot in how they're playing and what players they're using on any given at current state. And I wonder if that could potentially help us.
Yeah, I think so. I wanted to ask you your thoughts on this. So we obviously, it's been so long since we've recorded. We have no content published on the whole Sam Adeniran not being in the lineup situation. We just skipped right the fuck over that. But coinciding with that, AZ has not been in the starting lineup the last few weeks. And I think that that's been a positive for the team when playing initially. And the reason why is I think when you watch AZ, he is allowed a lot of freedom to move around the pitch. And I think that really hurts us when we get a quick turnover sometimes, because there's no structure. There's large gaps where there's no one covering like an offensive zone for like where to move into. Whereas I think when you have Indy, when we get those turnovers, Indy moves back into the positions quickly to help provide that structure, so that way we can have passing lanes and move the ball through. And even if that's not sending the ball directly to Indy in the center of the field, right? If he's there, defenders have to honor him, and that creates space for other players, for Celio and Alm, who have just been tearing it up.
I would actually counter that pulling AZ out has allowed Alm to play more, and Alm, similar to how you just said, holds his position better, which allows Klaus to play off of him more. I mean, you look at those assists that Alm has, and it's same thing you just said, right? It's allowing Indy to cut in. Playing Indy on the quote-unquote right is really playing him in the middle, because we let Totland, you can't say enough about that guy, but letting him roam up that right side allows Indy to invert in.
Yeah, but Indy isn't playing on the right when Alm's in. Indy plays in the center and Alm plays on the right. So it's Indy replacing Alm replaces Indy. Indy replaces AZ.
Correct. So, but in the lineup, yes. But like if you watch closely, like Indy tends to stick further over to the right, because Alm pushes up higher up the pitch on the right, and Totland's running under behind. So Indy's kind of like right central, where Klaus and Celio are over on the left doing Klaus and Celio Brazilian things.
Klaus has been the last couple of games just anywhere he feels like being, and he's finding the spot. So I'm not as worried about that. But I mean, I think when you watch us in attack, I think you do see that attacking midfield line having all three of them where they're supposed to be. I think obviously in the press they kind of have a little bit more freedom, but you really see Celio on the left, Indy in the middle, Alm on the right, and I don't think you would see that structure as clearly when AZ was playing.
No.
Alm definitely does, though. You're right. Alm definitely pushes up farther on the right, and Totland does up and down suicides the whole freaking game. And man, I really want to know how much ground he covers. Like, I really want to know like what his mileage is for a whole game, because it's got to be a lot.
Him and Durkin.
Yeah, I mean, when they show it, they always show Durkin, and Durkin is like the highest on the field at like 7.5 miles.
But usually that's like halftime, and Durkin kind of starts to slow down, but Totland doesn't. So I want to know at the end of the game, how close they end up.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, it's also positional, right? Because Durkin has freedom to go to both sides, forward and back, whereas Totland really can only stay along that right wing. So he's not moving laterally, generally speaking.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Just something I want to know.
We did skip over it, but I do want to touch on is the Sam Adeniran thing. And yeah, he was out of the lineup, out of the team. We talked a lot about it offline. And we talked a lot about, you and I, at least I was very upfront about it. And I felt like you never really argued with me that AZ needed to be not starting a little while ago. So
I said, that's totally mischaracterizing the nature of those conversations, but sure. Yes. You are the genius here.
No. I'm just trying not to like misquote you here. But again, there's a lot of conversations though about AZ not needing to not be in the starting lineup. I think he got a lot of grace for what he did last year, which was a spark plug for us last year, but he's just not been great on the ball this year. He's looked lost at times. And I feel like there's been frustrations from the team. I think it was the NYCFC game when we talked about it, it was very evident that Berkey was screaming at AZ for some stuff, and he was just not having it. Big Sam, I think the whole ordeal behind him, the only thing that makes sense to me is he wanted them to sell him to Europe where he got more time, potentially made more money, was probably upset about it and said or did some things, and training practice, whatever, that didn't sit well with Carnell, and now they've talked it out and are better. But that's my.
I mean, some of the podcasts that go to practices have made references before this coming out of seeing animated conversations between Sam and BC, and I don't, that was pretty much the extent of it. They didn't make it sound like they were like arguing or anything. They said they were, animated is really the best word I can use for that. You could also see a case, like you said, that that this is all really because of him wanting to get that transfer to Norway that didn't work out, and possibly withholding for that, kind of as I don't want to say consequences, but like, oh, you won't transfer me, well then I'm not going to play my hardest because I don't want to get hurt or whatever. And I could also see them saying, hey, because I don't think, as fast as Sam is, I don't think he's as good in the press as Klaus is, right? I don't think he's as active defensively. And I think on this team, the expectation that has always been said is you have to be involved defensively. Everyone plays defense for this team, right? And then I could see, and this is all hypothetical, but then I could see Sam saying, well, if I've got to play 90 minutes, I need to be saving some. And you can see how that could quickly build up into like, no, you need to be going all out, because it doesn't work if everyone's not going 100% all the time.
Yeah.
But we weren't there. We don't know. He's back. He's training. We're going to see him against Houston, I'm sure. That's all that matters.
Yeah, I would like, in a perfect world, you let Klaus go for 60 to 75 and just run his freaking wheels off. And if Klaus is gassed, you bring Sam in at somewhere between the 60 and 75th. Or on the flip side, you've got other guys too, right? We're making subs. You could pull any number of guys. We've tended to like to pull Indy off, around that 60 to 70th minute. You pull Indy off, you bring Sam in, and you run Sam and Klaus, right and left, and you pull Alm back to mid a little bit more. You've got a lot of options there. I think, and again, I think Klaus's speed would play better and much more effectively if he's coming in the 60 to 70th minute when the other team's already gassed.
Yeah, and I think we saw a little bit of that with AZ against Austin, right? Which was the first game AZ didn't start, right? That he was a nightmare those last 30 minutes. He was everywhere. And I think he was playing like a guy who got benched, right? Like that was my exact words. Oh, he looks like a guy who lost his starting job and is trying to earn it back. And I thought Thor did very good in that game, although less good against Sporting. He's another one of those guys that we can use. And, when you look against how we played against SKC, like the last 20 minutes, Klaus was dead. Like we needed another striker on the bench to sub him out. Like he had given everything he had. He had nothing left. And that's what we want. Now we just have to make sure we have guys to pull him off so that way he can rest and Sam can come in and then just be a completely different problem for those center backs.
Yeah. Speaking of the center backs for Sporting Kansas, I think it was their right center back. God, that guy spent more time on the ground.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he went down a lot.
Dude,
and not even, he wasn't even any of the tackles that are quote unquote controversial from that game either. He just went down a lot. Yeah, I do that. Obviously the Durkin tackle, not a foul. I think the Klaus tackle, very clearly to us, not a foul. We're not going to rehash that because that's old news at this point. But I do have to say that because the Klaus goal was such a big deal and the Celio goal, was goal of the week, and people want to talk about Totland scoring the to tie at the death, but just the perfectness of Totland, like getting that ball, one, anticipating that that's where the ball is going to go, getting on it, doing the hurdle right over Sporting's left back, and then slotting it back post. Like everything about that goal was awesome. But I just love how he windmills as he falls after that hurdle and just keeps running. It's just iconic to me.
Totland, again, I've said it before, if he was on the team last year, he might be my favorite player. As it stands, Celio's still my favorite player, and it is exciting to see. I've been saying since the end of last season we need to extend him. He's on a league minimum contract, and I don't want to lose him. And guess what they did this week?
Extended him. And I have to ask you, did you happen to look closely at the terms of his contract?
The dollar amounts or the years?
At the piece of paper in the picture.
No.
You should, as soon as this hangs up, you should pull up a picture of it on your computer and zoom it in and read it very carefully.
Okay.
And I do mean you need to do it tonight. You have like 4 days. So just do it tonight.
Okay. But anyway, but no, I think it's exciting. They signed him. They got an additional 2 years plus an option for a third year. And again, he's shown this year. He started to show last year and has really taken over that spot. He's creative. He's a nightmare over there. He works his ass off. And I'm excited to see what else he's going to do. He's already got 6 goal contributions this year. I mean, in your pay at the, a league minimum guy giving you 6 goal contributions this early in the season. I mean, there's a lot to be said for that. I also think, and the announcers actually said it, the Apple
broadcast
MLS and broadcast announcers actually said it, but our team looks completely different both last year and this year with Alm in the lineup. And you and I have talked about this a lot, about how much we love Alm.
Yeah. But if you actually follow this team, you already knew what a difference Alm makes, right? And I get that the national media, like they can't follow every team super close, right? But that's another reason why we didn't really buy what they were selling when they were talking about this team not being good. We're like, okay, well, Alm's been out, and you have no idea who that guy is because he doesn't show up on the stat sheet. But when you watch the game, you see how he's impacting the game everywhere because he's pushing people into the right spots by applying the right pressure and spreading out that back line. And most of the time, his crosses are pretty good. Like,
just ask Klaus.
Just ask Klaus, right? Just ask your goalkeeper, right? How good these crosses are.
Well, and it's just, and he understands the other players on the team so well. I think that's really what it comes down to. It's not just that he's doing all the right things and he's doing his job, but he understands what the other guys on the team are trying to do. And you look at those 2 crosses he's had to Klaus that Klaus has put in the back of the net recently. And they were both from him. Both of those open play goals from Klaus were from Alm. And there were similar type situations. Klaus was doing something a little different each time, but he knows where Klaus is going. He knows where to put the ball for Klaus. And I think there's a lot to be said for that when you have a guy who can find your striker. I think Celio and Klaus, their chemistry has only been getting better recently as well, as evidenced with, Klaus's overlapping run, which, I've looked at a lot. It's Klaus is making the overlap and pointing to Celio like, you take the middle space, I'm going outside. To try to create a window, and then Celio sees the window and just, put it where it needed to be.
So I have 2 things to say about those 2 goals right there. Okay, and I'm going to start with Klaus's goal against Sporting because it was the first one that happened. So Alm's pass was not meant for Klaus, right? It was very clearly meant for Indy. You can see where that Indy's coming up on it first. You can see Alm's reaction. That being said, that's why you deliver those balls into the box like that and why everyone is supposed to run into the box, because the ball doesn't necessarily go to who you expect it to, or it gets blocked and rebounded, and there's so much that can happen. So it's a great heads up play by both of them. The other thing I wanted to say, so you talked about that switch that Klaus and Celio had, right? On Celio's goal. So you saw Klaus pointing. I don't know if you heard this, but Klaus was actually also speaking to him in Portuguese and directing him in Portuguese so that the Kansas City players didn't know what he was saying exactly, to help create that space. And I was like, yes, get more Brazilians on your team.
I wouldn't be opposed to more really good Brazilian players on the team.
Would not.
So I think there's been a lot of players that have played really well. We haven't even talked about Ostrak and how well he's played this
Playing
year.
Out of his ass. Yeah, been outstanding for our team.
This, there's been good. I mean, obviously we mentioned Durkin. Marcanic has actually played really, really well. And which is why you haven't seen Dewar. It's because Marcanic is playing really, really well.
Yeah.
And I think having Dewar even there to push Marcanic has made Marcanic better, because there's somebody gunning for that spot who's younger than him and wants it. I think an area that, we've struggled, and mainly just because of injury, is center back. Just trying to get chemistry with our center backs, because we've not really played the same two center backs together. I mean, Hebert definitely got put on skates on that goal against Sporting Kansas. And if you watch it, it's just him. Again, it goes back to the chemistry. He just wasn't aware of where his team was, that he already had two guys collapsing on the ball, and he turned to follow the ball.
Hold up a fucking moment. No. Yes, that's true, but there wasn't a fucking thing Hebert could have done on that goal. There was not. That was a bad pass by Parker and very quick, rapid build-up play by Sporting Kansas City. There was nothing on that first goal Hebert could have done. That was a mistake elsewhere on the field. Now, the third Sporting Kansas City goal, Hebert's keeping him onside. That's all on him. But that first goal, there was not a damn thing Hebert could have done.
I'm saying the pass at the end, he got turned around.
He did. So he got put on skates.
He got put on skates, and he didn't necessarily have to. Again, it comes back to the chemistry piece of just not playing with the guys enough, because he had no
Parker's
idea.
Fault.
It's not even with Parker. Parker wasn't even in the picture at this point.
But he didn't. Parker is too far upfield and makes a bad pass and doesn't track back.
I'm saying he didn't.
That play is on Parker.
He didn't know where, but he didn't know, like, himself, where Marcanic and I think it was Ostrak were coming from, because they passed to the top. Yeah. And he didn't. That's what I'm talking. That's the part I'm not talking about. Yeah. I'm talking about at the end. He didn't know that he had two players already on Agata, so he turns to go to Agata when there's already two guys on him, and left I don't remember who the hell it was who ended up scoring.
It was God, why can't I think of his name? It starts with a P.
Polito. Polito.
Yeah.
But he left Polito. I mean, but that's what happens. He gets spun around. So that's what I'm saying. It's just something that comes with time, right? Like you watch Nielsen, and Nielsen in those types of situations knows where his guys are crashing from.
Right. The thing about that, though, is Agata, I think, already has...
I 100% think the whole goal is on Parker.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not arguing that. I'm just pointing out the things that I see with Hebert.
Right. No, I don't. I get what you're saying, but I think he probably was aware of them, but they weren't in position to stop Agata either. They were still, Agata was already ahead of them. Like if they had been a little bit closer, maybe, but they were behind him and on his back shoulder still. Like if Hebert had just gone with Polito, Agata was, directly in front of goal with no one to stop a shot. Now he's at the top of the box, a little bit outside of it. Maybe Berkey gets that save if Agata doesn't have a perfect shot, but I don't know. It was just a shit goal all around. Now, the whole Salah's goal, the own goal on Berkey, that was just a fluke. I don't feel anything about that. That was just bizarre.
Shalloway got a weird thing, but no. Yeah, no, but the last goal, that was Hebert holding people onside.
Yeah. You gotta onside trap those. You have to step up.
And Parker as a whole he's not been a terrible defender, right? But there are moments where he passes the ball like that I'm like, what the fuck were you thinking? Because this isn't the first time he's done that.
No, it is not.
But Hebert does the same. Like anytime the ball is on the feet of our center backs and it's not somebody named Joachim Nielsen, I am incredibly nervous.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time Parker's fine because I think Parker does slow the game down a little bit when he gets the ball, like which we need sometimes. Like we need to change the pace of play. But sometimes his passes, I'm just like, what the fuck are you doing with that pass? And I know I would have made a much worse pass, so I'm not the best person to argue with you right now, Parker, but like, come on, like, I'm also not making $800K a year to be one of the top center backs in MLS. So like, I don't know. There's a difference there.
Yeah, no, give me $800K a year and let me just work out and play soccer all the time. And I won't be as good as Parker at this point. I'm too old. Never mind. Forget it.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you don't have the guns either, right? Kelsey and I were watching a game. I don't even remember what it was, and she's like, sometimes I forget like how small most other soccer players are compared to Parker and Leuven, and I'm like, yeah, those guys are like NFL linebacker sized, and they're fast too.
Well, and like, yeah, but I mean, again, I think there's getting Nielsen healthy again is going to be huge for our team. And again, Hebert's our fourth center back.
Yeah, I do think so. Nielsen was on the bench for Austin, came on late when Hebert was cramping, and he was on the bench for Sporting, but I don't think they brought him on, or I don't think he was starting because like we had a clean sheet the week before, and coach just doesn't mess with the back line when nothing happens.
Well, and he doesn't like subbing out his center backs in general
either.
Anyway.
Right.
So like,
and I get that. Like the last thing you want is to have a cold center back come in and then get burned by a speedy forward. So
yeah, it's almost like subbing on set pieces is a bad idea.
Oh, come on. That has nothing to do with that goal, though. Like, that had nothing to do with that goal. No,
it's
not even gonna...
it's just bad timing.
I agree, but it was just bad timing.
Right now.
Yeah.
But
like you heard so many people say that, though, and it's like, okay, yes, because bringing on Kojima caused Klaus to have a bad header to go straight to Salwe's feet, right?
But as a general rule, you usually don't try to sub on set pieces because those guys on the field already have a feel for what the players are trying to do through the game.
Right.
So that sub is not why they scored on that set piece. That was a freak goal. But the idea, the fact that he went ahead and did it did irk me a little bit.
Right. It was weird that he did it, but it didn't actually cause that goal.
That's not why they scored, but I don't agree.
But it was still weird, yeah. But again, we have said many times, he knows soccer better than us. We're just going to defer to what BC and Lutz want to do.
When it comes to subbing, I will continue to question Cardinal and his subs probably forever.
I know. That's a champagne problem. We always complain about Cardinal and his subs, but like if we had any other coach in MLS, it would be so much worse.
Well, yeah, because we just really wouldn't sub. Good.
Yeah, no, because that's MLS. Because most rosters in MLS are only 13 or 14 deep, right? Like the other 14 spots are just filling out a roster, so that way, if someone gets hurt, you can still play. Basically, like,
yeah, our roster is a lot deeper than I think most people realize. I agree that we don't have some of the top level talent that some of the other teams do.
Right.
But our if you're looking at your hierarchy, right, you've got your they're on the roster, but no, they're not here to play. You've got these guys can fill in at a pinch when we need them to. You've got these guys are decent players, and you've got your really good players. We have a lot of these are pretty good players. We don't have a lot of those great, outstanding players. We're kind of, if there's 4 tiers, with 4 being the best, we have a lot of tier 3 type players, which again is great.
And that's also,
I think it shows I think it shows in some of these results, right? Like there's times where you feel like you need that one difference maker somewhere in a game that can break something open. That DP type player, we just don't. We have a DP spot, and I still don't know. I still wonder what's going to happen in this summer transfer window.
I have a theory about the DP slot.
Is he going to? They're going to go sign Neymar or somebody? Because that's what I keep seeing in the city groups.
Another Brazilian.
Yeah, it's just give me
Kylian Mbappe.
He's not Brazilian, but I'd take him.
Right. No one else speaks French, but we will take him. He does speak Spanish, though.
Well, yeah, there you go. Firmino was there for a while.
Yeah. So the two theories I have. So one, as far as not having those tier 4 guys, like no one in MLS really does, because the roster rules constrain you to only being able to have like 3 guys at that level, unless you're Miami, where everyone's already made a gazillion dollars and they just want to play and win. I kind of wonder if they were saving that last DP slot. So Berkey's contract ends next year, and he'll be 33, I think, at the end of that contract. Maybe 34, so he could have another 3-ish years of good high-level play. But how do you give a raise to a guy already on a max deal, right? You have to make him a DP. So I kind of wonder if they're reserving that to be open to try to keep him at the end of that deal. That's just a thought I had today, like literally today.
Well, I think, and they keep talking about adding a 4th DP anyway, which could free up that space. But
right.
I don't think we're going to see them. Unless the like perfect fit comes along, I don't think they're going to use that DP slot. They're going to save it until they have that absolute. They're not going to. I feel like there's certain teams in MLS that use the DP slot just to use the DP slot.
Right.
And St. Louis is not going to be one of those teams.
Right. I mean, a lot of teams will use it like as a cap saving measure because like you have it. So like, why not? I do think we might see more investment in DPs and in U22s once we start really getting some player sales and like generating some money, and like then we can reinvest it in those types of things. But it's just going to take time. My last question for tonight, speaking about deep rosters, who has a deeper roster, the Cardinals or the Blues?
Battlehawks. Final answer.
Final answer. Good answer.
No, if I had to pick between the Cardinals or the Blues, golly, probably the Blues at this point.
You think so?
I think the drop off for the Cardinals is just very steep, and I think it's been evidenced this year, right? Like, I don't, the top 4 lines for the Blues, you have some more electric stuff, right? But you have 4 solid lines that can compete with any other 4 lines in the league. And I don't feel like, at least not with what I've seen from the Cards so far this year or last year for that matter, that we're where we need to be depth wise. I look at our pitchers. Yeah. I look at the pitchers for St. Louis Cardinals. Okay, yeah, that's a strength, but okay, the Blues have their goalies, right? Like, your run prevention, your goal prevention. So now you're just looking at position players versus position players, versus your offensive and defensive lines. And I would take the Blues with what I see right now, but that could change based on if some of these Cardinals players can actually get their act together again. Yeah. If you had asked me before the Cardinals season started, I would have told you Cardinals, but the way things have been going offensively, I don't feel like I can say that right now. My last thing that I wanted to touch on is the Battlehawks.
Okay.
Have you caught much of their stuff this year?
I don't have regular TV, so I do not watch anything. But I do pay attention on the social media.
Did you see the score today?
They put up it was a big score, wasn't it? It was like 45-12 or something like that.
Yeah.
They demolished them. Yeah.
Against DC, who we have not been able to beat since the XFL started. So it was a rather, I don't know how to put it. It was a win that you could really bask in.
Sure.
But the offense for the Battlehawks right now is, we said it before the season started. They already had one of the top receivers. They picked up 2 of the other top 4 receivers from the XFL and that before the season started. They brought AJ McCarron back. We would be undefeated if not for a 60-something yard field goal.
Which is wild. Like, wild. Like, that guy is 100% playing in the NFL this year. Like, 100%.
Oh, God, yeah. Put him on your fantasy roster if you guys get bonuses for long kicks.
Yes. Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
but the Battlehawks have a real chance to do something right this year, and it's exciting. And they are plowing through teams. They're showing that they've got what it takes to win. Most importantly, when it comes time for playoffs, you know where the championship game for XFL is this year, right?
It's here.
It's here in the Battle Dome.
Let me ask you this. Speaking of, do you think our friend Kaler watches the XFL?
I think he might.
Because in the other division, the leader is Birmingham.
Mm-hmm. They were the only undefeated team coming into the weekend. Did they win this weekend?
They're listed at 5-0, so I guess
so they won.
Yeah.
They were 4-0.
Yeah, I was going to say. I thought today was Game 5. He's also a Reds fan, so we've got a lot we can talk about with old Kaler, and I think he's a Sharks fan. Weirdly for the NHL, but yeah, bizarre.
We've got some joint episodes coming up because we got some things to talk to Kaler about, including Miggy just had his birthday, but did not start in Birmingham Legion's last game, and it was not a pretty one for him. So maybe I think you were the one who sent it to me, and by I think I know it was you because you're the only person who I message about Birmingham Legion with. But John sent me a message. It was like, hey, they're getting destroyed, but Miggy's not on the field. So maybe this is their sign that they need to play him more.
Just saying. I'm just saying. But it's not like he came on and scored a goal either. So
their new kit they just released was sharp, though. So
very
good.
Sharp. Yeah. Both of their kits are so good. I feel like I need
to get me a Birmingham Legion kit with Miggy's name and number on the back.
That's been my plan since the loan was announced with that gold kit. I just haven't pulled that trigger yet.
Dude, I will
100% be. You know what? You should get a black one. I'll get a gold one, and we can rock them same day.
Yeah,
there we go. The day that we talk to Kaler, that's what we'll do. Can you imagine his face if we hop on wearing those kits?
Yeah, we're gonna need him to order and wear a city kit though.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna get away with that. He seems like a ride till I die for his club type of guy. I don't think he wears other teams.
I could see him wearing a Perez, a Miggy City jersey, because Miggy's on his team.
Maybe we'll talk more about this offline.
But yeah, no, I think it'll be interesting. It'll be exciting. Less exciting going on is the NHL playoffs. Good news, Matthew Tkachuk and the Panthers, last I saw, were up 3-1 on the Tampa Bay Lightning. So that's exciting. Much less exciting, the Colorado Avalanche were up 3-1 coming into today or after today. I don't know if they're up 3-1 or if they just won 4-1 because they had another game. They had back-to-back games.
At some point earlier today, they were up 3-1. Did it for you.
There
Fix
you go.
That.
But all that I care about is that they lose at some point. I need them to get knocked out because I don't want to see Stan Kroenke have the joy of ever getting to hoist another championship trophy, banner, or anything thereof. So with that, Stan Kroenke, we hate you and good night.